And a very good afternoon to you all. My name's Phil Stepney. Thanks so much for joining me on The Hide. Always look forward to this half an hour of the day. Hope you've all had a great day. Hopefully you've had some time to watch some of the action on the cameras. There's been quite a bit of interesting stuff going on over the last day or two. In fact, the whole week's been pretty interesting as things have dried up. There's been lion activity at Tembe. I think there was some lion activity at Nkora. Ever-present elephants. Just really enjoying, while waiting for the show to start, watching these two bulls having a very relaxed drink here at Taupan. Things are slowly drying up. There's some wonderful warthogs in the background. They're just walking off, shiny in the sun. They've been having a good wallow. Even though winter is approaching, it's still a very hot environment in the midday. There's still some clouds in the sky in the background there. I don't think there's any more rain forecast, but certainly warm enough to have a good old wallow. Folks, as usual, if you've got any questions, there's a question box underneath the viewer. Always keen to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions with regards to the show or some of the things you might have seen while watching the cameras, I'd love to hear from you. Those of you that haven't registered and would like to ask questions, you'll just need to register, and that's how you'll be able to ask questions and engage. We'll have a look, as usual, if there's any interesting sightings happening during the show. We've got some great highlight videos, as usual. We've been recording them. Things we might have missed. Some, like I was saying, some really interesting activity over the last couple of days, with in particular the predators. But we'll go through those shortly. I've also got some of your pictures that you've taken, although last week we didn't manage to get around to them. There was so much activity on the highlight video reel. But let's see how we go today. So these bulls at Tembe are just really not really moving much. They're having a nice relaxed drink, almost taking a rest. You see the one on the right there resting its trunk on its tusk. Big fellow on the left with broken tusks, big fighter. There doesn't seem to be much of a rush this afternoon. There's not too much else on the cameras at the moment. So let's go straight into some of the highlight videos. As usual, I'll keep an eye on what's going on the live cameras. But let's see what's been happening, what we might have missed. I was talking about some lion activity at Tembe. Let's see if we can get Max to put that up for us here. It's so nice to see them. They were there this morning, actually. And I suspect they were there during the early hours of last night. Some of you might have seen it, but here, just take a look at this. Beautiful lions, big lioness at the back with the young male in the foreground. You see that male has got his head low, shoulders high, the twitching of the tail. There's two more pride members. Just watch how they have a lot of fun with each other. They're very playful this morning, early morning. Nice and cool, good time to be playful. They're also having a look into the bush there. Maybe there's an Inyala. I see there's some Inyalas at the waterhole right now live, so they need to watch out for these lions. See the one in the dip on the left is dropping lower and getting ready for a surprise attack on its sibling, just popping its eyes over. Sneaky move. Oh, as it looks away, that's when the one on the right takes its chance. And and let's go and jump on mum. Always so nice to watch them moving, very playful. There goes the next one, wants to join in the party, and mum's even getting active. Next one coming in, using that lower ground for cover. All of that sort of behavior is really important to do when they're young, because that's exactly how they'll hunt as they get older. Always time for a bit of a rest. So it'll be interesting to watch and see throughout today, tomorrow evening, this evening, see if these lions hang around. Once they come into the waterhole, it's a really good place to be. You know, it's a wonderful spot. They can lie up in the woodland on the edge of the water, waiting in ambush. There are lots of inyalas, warthogs coming down, zebras, great opportunity for a feed. You can, you can hear the inyalas alarming in the back there. But I think they've responded to the hardy-dars. Wonderful bit of lion viewing here at Tembe. Now, crossing over to Nkora, so there's also lion activity. Funny how we get spurts of lion activity. I haven't seen lions at Nkora for a while. But here's a very full lioness. Just look how full her stomach is. This one having a good old drink. Just want to say hi to Sabine. How you doing? Louis, Siko, thanks for joining us. And someone from affordable Africa. Mr. Stephanie, how are you? I am very well. I hope the same goes for you. Louis, you're asking where are the cameras located? They're all pretty much in the northern part of South Africa. We have Tembe that we've just had a look at lions at Tembe. That's very close to Mozambique, right on the east coast of South Africa. Then we have another camera in Tau. When we started this show, we were looking at 3 elephant bulls in Tau. That's sort of northwest of South Africa. We're hoping to move into Africa. We've got some hopes and dreams for Botswana, Namibia. We're all over the place at the moment in South Africa. Where this lioness is in Nkora, which is in the Sabi Sands, not far from the Kruger National Park. She came down for a drink in the last 48 hours. She's got a very full stomach. It's quite nice to see. She's waiting around here. I think last week we saw a big male lion here roaring. So I'm not sure if they're part of the same pride. But again, as things start to dry up, it's really quite a good idea to keep watching the cameras. It looks to me like the predator activity is on the increase. And she's just having a look around. Look how she blends into that long grass. Just a beautiful view. Avi, how are you doing? You also asked a question with regards to the lionesses at Tembe. Which lines are collared and which are not? What determines that? In that case, it's the dominant lioness, typically of a pride, that will have the collar on. If you find wherever she moves, those that are doing the research or the monitoring will know that the rest of the pride there. In Tembi's case, there's a bit of both. So they're doing research on the lions in the area, and they do it here at Nkora as well. But around Tembi, there's quite a few communities that live around the reserve, and it's really important to keep that conflict of human-animal conflict to an absolute minimum. So if the lions or elephants in some cases move out of the reserve, it's really important that they get found as quickly as possible and brought back into the reserve before any conflict starts. But typically you'll take the dominant animal of a pride. Sometimes people do research on male lions, so that's you'd put one or two collars. If there were four in a group, they wouldn't collar them all necessarily. Again, you just want to make sure that you collar more or less the dominant one, and therefore they can monitor the movement. A lot of people do research on territory sizes, which can be quite a fascinating subject. It varies from area to area. But of course, male lions cover a whole lot more ground in general and are quite likely to go out into communities. So it's really just depending on who's doing what research and what monitoring is going on. So this lioness, she just sat here for a very long time by herself. It's interesting that she's got a nice full stomach. It's not impossible that she's hunted by herself and managed to catch something like a warthog or maybe even kudu. I mean, a lioness that knows what she's doing can take down a big buffalo. But I'd say it's quite likely that she's had her own feed, unless there is a pride in the vicinity and she's just come by herself for a drink. It's not always that clean cut, but she seems to be on her own. She's not calling or anything, so she's not too worried at the moment as to where any of the pride members are. But certainly giving us a beautiful view. And it is quite interesting that there was a male lion in this area over the weekend and last week coming in. So it's always quite exciting to watch and see if there's any further activity with regards to predators. Donnelly, nice to have you on the show for a bit. I'm sure you've been busy. Thanks for squeezing in. And I'm glad you caught us on this day. Yes, indeed, there seems to be a fair amount of predator activity. So nice that you had some time today. So we're going to go across to another sighting of a different predator at Rosie's pan this time. Because this lioness just sits here for most of the morning. Beautiful morning. You can hear spur fowls in the background. And where she moves off to, I'm not too sure, but it's definitely worthwhile keeping an eye on Nkora pan this evening. But I'd like to go across to Rosie's pan and see. There's a brief view of a beautiful leopard that popped in. A young leopard, actually, which is quite interesting. Look at that. I know everyone always says it, but leopard must be one of my favorite. I do enjoy lions, especially when they're moving around. But this is such a beautiful predator. And what's interesting about this one is it's a young one. I would say probably maybe about 18 months old. You can just see the fur is not that clear. There's a bit of a long-hairedness to it. It's a little blurry. And as it reaches 24, 25 months of age, so adulthood at 2 years, that sort of baby fur disappears and it becomes a much cleaner coat. And what's also quite fascinating, it's not unusual to see young leopards on their own. If it was a lion that hung about and we didn't see any others in the pride, that would be unusual to see a young lion. But leopards are quite well recorded to spend a long time by themselves, even from a very young age. The mother moves off. In some cases, some leopards have made it to adulthood from 4 months of age by themselves, which is quite an interesting concept. They are solitary, both male and female, highly independent, and always looking for opportunities. But just a beautiful view of this young leopard. Such a typical body shape, that curled up tail. When I'm actually in the bush on game drive, that's often what you see first, is that white that underneath the tail of the leopard is really, really white. And that twitches and sometimes that pops out first. Obviously in this black and white environment, you can see how that's really quite bright. Remember, it's completely dark for these animals as we're watching. Those of you that watched the On Point show and saw the aerial view of Rosie's, there's that drainage line in the direction that this leopard's walked to, just dipping in behind there. And there's a very frequent walkway. So again, it's always a good idea to keep watching here, see if this leopard comes by again. Now there's another really special sighting at Cat Eye this time, not too far from Rosie's. But we've been seeing a fair amount of leopards moving together, two adults. This is another breeding pair. And here they gave us a quick view, crossing past the pan, making their way towards Naledi. They're beautiful. I mean, really unusual sightings. There's the big male walking off on the left, beautiful female on the right. And I think as we've been seeing a fair amount of interaction between males and females in the leopard front recently, 3 months from now, more or less, I think we need to keep a good lookout for new cubs. They've got a 3 months gestation period. And what's also quite interesting is that that will be timed very well with the middle of winter, when the antelope species might be a little weaker. A nice, easy time to hunt for the mothers. That was some really great cat viewing highlights. There's another nice visitor that came past Cat Eye last night, a spotted hyena. I don't know. I think it was after the leopards moved through, but this is again a clear view of hyenas, fairly common predator in these parts. Just thought this is such a lovely, clear view. A spotted hyena having a look around, always looking for opportunities, and also quite well known to follow leopard movement. They'll pick up on scent and sometimes trail quite close behind in case there's an opportunity to grab somebody else's food. And again, that hyena in really good condition. Here it comes up towards the camera. And stop there. Now there it is. Look at that. Funny animals. I do enjoy watching hyenas, always entertaining. And then back to Nkora for one last view of some buffalo. Now, we saw the lioness here earlier. This was later on in the same day. And I'm wondering, it's not impossible that the rest of the pride maybe caught a buffalo if they've been in this area. There's really good grasses around here at Nkora. It's definitely something to look out for. But this is a beautiful view of an animal we don't actually get to see that often. You see, they've got huge home ranges. They cover a fair amount of ground. And if they're not in the immediate vicinity of this waterhole or one where we've got a camera, we won't see them for a little while. So it's always quite special. Very special to see these big herbivores. Love how they just go straight into the water for a wallow. Sometimes I think they're hippos. Susie, you have a question with regards to hippos, talking about that. That hippo that's been spending a lot of relaxing time in front of Naledi Dam and Cat Eye. Yeah, I was having a good look at that. I was trying to work it out. It looks to be like a young male. Young males, if that is the case, it's not unusual at all. The Olifants River is not far away from both of those dams, and you might find that there's a bit of competition as that young male that we've been seeing is coming into his prime. He starts to be a bit of a territorial and a breeding threat, but the bulls that are existing in the river maybe are too much pressure for him. They're just a little bit too big, and so he'll move off and go and look for a bit of peace and quiet while he grows into his dominance, and then maybe head back, either back into the same body of water in the olifants, or maybe by then he would have moved off a bit further. But it is definitely something to keep watching to see if they keep coming back. Marcel, yes, I thought it might be you. Your name is next to the company name. Great to have you with us again. Hope all is well, Marcel. But I am quite interested with these buffalo to, again, always build a potential picture. So we've had lions here and buffalo within the same sort of 24-hour movement, more or less. Maybe those lions are still around. Maybe they've caught a buffalo, or they could come into contact with them as they're here. Those little calves, those chocolate brown ones, are always easy targets. So again, it's something to keep a lookout for. If you do have the time, beautiful, nice big herd of buffalo. So that was it for the highlight videos. I've just had a quick look around the live cameras. There's still, those 3 elephants are still in the same place. No rush there. I'd like to go through some of the snapshots that you have taken during the course of the week before we have one more look at those elephants, or if anything else comes onto the cameras live. But let's go across to some of the snapshots, some of the beautiful scenery. Let's start off with some scenery shots. There's been some incredible sunrises and sunsets at any one of the cameras. Just wait a second while these buffalo mingle and move around. Nice to hear the sounds as well. Margaret, Leo, you got a great photograph here in Kora. Just look at those colors. Beautiful scenery. It's always quite amazing to see these wonderful sunrise and sunset shots, as well as some moonlight shots. Lately, there's been a relatively full moon. If we have a look at this abstract, always quite nice at Tau. Risky, you got a great shot here. Quite an abstract shot. Beautiful, beautiful shot taken at Tau. And talking about hippos in unusual places, Susie managed to get a great shot of what she captioned hippo party. So this is the same waterhole that we've just seen those buffalo at. And animals taking turns to use the space. 5 beautiful hippos. And again, coming from the river. And I think in this case, they're just using this as a stopover. And then something we haven't seen for a while, but always wonderful to see, just like a sunrise and sunset. A beautiful lilac-breasted roller. Latin Fox 64, great shot. Amazing colors, perfectly perched. And I always say this has got to be one of the birds that have brought people to the birding world. Great ambassador for birding. Those of you that were watching the show, the On Point show yesterday, and we spoke about next week's show, we're going to do a whole show on birds and all the various interesting sightings we've had over the last couple of months. So I'm sure the lilac-breasted roller might feature on that as well. Let's see if we have one more, or maybe 2 more shots. But yeah, let's have a look at this beautiful shot at Ancora by Jenny Nelson. Wow, that's a framer. Incredible colors, beautiful contrasts. It's always so wonderful to see all these snapshots that get taken. It's always quite tricky to pick. Because a lot of you always take the same, there's a lot of people taking shots of the same frame. So it's always wonderful to have lots to choose from. Okay, so let's go back to where we started. In a way, circles are a nice thing. We'll go to Tau on the live cameras, and it is quite funny to see those elephants are pretty much still in the same place. Certainly does give us a good view. It's quite interesting. We see so many elephants on our cameras in various places. Obviously, Tau and Tembe, the 2 highlight areas with regards to elephants. And in some ways, it's not dissimilar to watching impala. There's impalas everywhere, and sometimes we overlook them. I love looking at impalas. They're beautiful, very interesting to look at. But because there's so many of them, we always look past them. And I feel sometimes we get so spoiled with amazing elephant sightings. But just like as with impala, it's always wonderful to see. Very special to be able to see these animals. Folks, we're slowly coming to the end of the show again today. It's always so nice to spend this time with you. Thanks for all your questions. And I do hope that you have the time to keep watching the cameras, especially at Tembe and Ancora. There could be some more activity. And between Cat Eye and Naledi, we've obviously got the interesting time now with that hippo, but those leopards might still make an appearance. Definitely worthwhile to have a look every now and then, tonight and maybe tomorrow morning. But for now, folks, I hope you have a wonderful day further. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great weekend. There'll be some highlights as usual tomorrow. Russell should be back with us next week, Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we'll see what footage we put together with regards to birds and all things to do with flight. Folks, have a great day further, and we'll catch up with you next week.